Hello guys. So this week I came across something that was so interesting and it blew my mind so much that I thought I really have to build this for a video. So I came across this tweet here where they are building a natural language date picker. And it's such a cool idea that you can use a date picker and then use natural language to pick a specific date. So for this video, we're going to build something like this just to see what it takes to implement such a feature in your app. So when you scroll down at the next tweet here, you get the key to the whole idea here, which is they're using Chrono NLP to implement this functionality. So Chrono NLP is a JavaScript library that is able to pass natural language into dates. So it's not some AI magic or remote API calls or anything. They're just using Chrono NLP to supply it with the natural language text, and then it spits out a date. So here's my date picker setup here. So I'm using shadcn to get this cool date picker widget here, where you have a drop down and then you pick a date, and then the date is shown in the drop down there. So this is shadcn in combination with Tailwind. So we are going to update our date picker app here to add the natural language functionality. So first of all, let's add Chrono NLP. So add Chrono, I think it's called Chrono node. Now we can use this library in our app. Okay, so what we want is when you click the drop down, you have an input box just above our date input here, where you can type the exact date you want, and then we want the calendar to update with the correct date, and then also update the UI here with the date we want to select. So what that means is right above the calendar here, we can add our input box here. So there's the input there. So let's add a little padding to it. We can just wrap it with a div with, say, a padding 2 so that it appears nicely inside the box there. So this is the input. So we want to track the value of the input on change, right? So we have the value, say we'll store it in a text variable, and then we also have an on change event, which you can store in an on input change event handler, and maybe also add a placeholder property. So let's say maybe find date, so something like that. So let's implement this unimplemented state variable here. So we have a text, and then we have the on input change event handler, right? So the value is the e.target.value. So on change, we set the value of text like that. So we are now tracking the input value. So what we want to implement here is on change, we pass that value to Chrono NLP. And then if it detects a valid date, we set the date here, which will update our date at the top there. So to pass a date, we do something like const pass date is equals to chrono.passDate. So chrono.passDate will pass text here, and it may return null or a valid date. So we just check that if it has returned a valid date, then we can set the date value, right? So let's save it and try it out. So let's say we want a date 3 days from now. So let's say 3 days from now. So today is 4th Wednesday. So 3 days from now is 7th. You can see that as we type, if a date is detected, you can see it updates our box here and also updates our calendar object. So you can do anything here, like in 2 weeks, it will correctly pass the date value for in 2 weeks, which means it's going to be 18th from today, 4th, and then update there. Okay, so let's try maybe select a date that's a month from now. So let's say next month. So this is correctly updating. So next month is October 4th. We are on September 4th. But now the problem is our calendar is not updating here. So let's try to fix that. We are using the shadcn calendar here. So they have an option where you can set the month. We can say let it be our selected date here, then the default value is this month, right? So that means if we try maybe in 2 months, it will correctly update the date here and also correctly change the calendar. So what other thing are we missing? So yes, if we try moving to the next and previous months, it doesn't work because you have given it a default initial month and not a way to control the next or previous month. So that means we need to provide the on month change event handler here. So which means we need to store the value of the month. We can't just get it from the date object. So that means we can add another state value here to store the month. So the default value is the current month. So the month value here is from the month state variable here, right? And then we also need to create the on change month function here. So on change month, it will be called with the next month as the date argument here. We just call set month, right? Like that. So if we open it and then we click next month, they should be changing, right? And also on input change here, we need to make sure we also update the month with the past date. So that means when we type here, say next year, we correctly update the value here and you update our calendar object here. So if we say next year on 17 January, we correctly update everything. And also clicking the next button here should go to February 2025. Amazing, right? And then also clicking on the date will correctly change it. So I don't know about you, but this makes selecting dates so much easier because you don't have to navigate manually through all the dates. And then another important use case for this is you can have a date picker like this for, say, a cron job selector, because cron jobs require to be run on specific dates at specific times. So you can actually add support for time here, right? So because we are using here date FNS to format the dates here, we can add an option here. A small p adds an option to add the exact time, right? So that means if I say tomorrow at say 7 p.m., the time will correctly reflect here. And you can also add the time maybe somewhere below this calendar here. So you can say just below the calendar, we add a time, right? If the variable is set, then we can do a div text center, a centered div there with maybe a little padding like that, and then print the time there like that. So time here is basically passing our date into a time, right? So it's just calling date dot to local time string. Let's say we are using the NUS local, and then we want to display only the hour and the minute. Yeah, I think that should be okay, like that, in a 12-hour format. So if I say tomorrow morning, I get a 6 a.m. date. Amazing parsing capabilities here. So if I say tomorrow morning at 6 maybe 45, well, let me put it correctly, at 6:45, I get a 6:45 a.m. as the past date here. I don't know, when I was trying to research how to implement this, I didn't think it's going to be this easy, and I was going to write very little logic to get this working. Chrono NLP actually does all of the heavy lifting, so I'm just using Shard, CN, and Tailwind to make it look pretty. And the idea of using natural language to select dates is just amazing. So I'm going to put this on GitHub for anyone who is interested and anyone who wants to integrate this into their application. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new today. See you in the next video.